then I start. And yeah, seeing all the presentations which were given before, I think it almost feels like we have to take a step back in history, because I want to introduce to you the eFarm project, where we show in Northern Frisia in North Friesland in Germany how hydrogen can work in mobility, in the mobility sector. And we're planning this project already in beginning in 2016, pushing it very proactive forward from 2018 on. And that was a bit before the hydrogen hype. And of course, we had some limited access and possibilities there. But what we wanted to show that hydrogen is there, it's possible to work in it within the energy sector, within the renewable energy sector. So we put up this showcase I want to tell you about today. First, GP Joule at a glance, our DNA is the planning and building of big photovoltaic power plants and also wind power plants. And from there on, we move forward in the whole energy sector. So we set up e-mobility charging stations, and also we have for a few years now a very big focus on sector coupling. We integrate district heating, and that's the focus of my presentation today, also the hydrogen sector. That's a few numbers about GP Joule. We're about 400 employees at the moment, and yeah, we're based in Germany, but also have other activities internationally. Yeah, but what do we do in the hydrogen field, and why do we do it? Our focus is on the electricity side of the world. So that's where we come from. We come from the production of renewable energies. And of course, we saw what everybody can see when you deal with renewable energies, that they are dependent on the weather. When you have wind and solar power, or wind and the sun, then you produce a lot of energy, and there are other moments where you don't. So actually, you have two resulting problems. You have the question: how big of a network infrastructure is supposed to be set up? How big are the power cables, the power lines that you want to set up? Do you want to set it up for the last bit of produced energy, or is that maybe not cost efficient? And on the other hand, you have times of the year where you don't have enough power from the power plant itself, so you need a storage. And we figured hydrogen is the perfect fit for that. You can take the peaks of the renewable energy production. You go into those hours of the year where you have peaks in the system where energy is cheap, and times where the grid is under a lot of pressure because of the high feeding of the high voltage that is fed in from the power plants. So you have the system and the market side, which makes it sensible to do something with the energy peaks and produce something like hydrogen, and then you get the product hydrogen, where you can store it, as Gerd showed it very nicely in the EVE caverns. You can store hydrogen not only for days and weeks, but also for months or years if you want to. So it really makes sense as a counterpart for the volatile feeding in of the renewable power plant. And that's how we came across and figured we needed to dive into the field of hydrogen a lot deeper, and then we started our businesses there 10 years ago. Actually, we invested in the company HTEC Systems, a company which is now owned by MAN, which produces electrolyzers, and we gained knowledge there. And then in 2016, we said, okay, we need to show that hydrogen is ready. It's there, you can use it. It makes perfectly sense to use it. And then we try to draw up a business case. And as Gerd showed in the last slides, you need to have a very holistic approach. And within that holistic approach, you realize mobility is the sector where it makes a lot of sense to start from a different point, from many points of view. First of all, it's fairly high CO2 savings. If you look at the pressure which the sector is on, it's a high pressure. We need to save 65 million tons of CO2 by 2030. That's the German goal. So there's a lot of pressure in the sector, and it hasn't delivered yet within the last decade. So we figured hydrogen makes a lot of sense there. And it's also it also has a high visibility in the market. Everybody needs transport, public transport, private transport. You all need that, and it's all possible to power that by hydrogen. So you get the people involved. Hydrogen makes a lot of sense in the mobility sector if you want to make people starting to think about it. And that's what we were figuring in 2016. Nobody talked about hydrogen, so we thought, how do we get the people involved? And also very basic, you have the components available. There are cars, there are refueling stations, and also buses. It's all very limited, but if you look at other sectors, you don't have anything yet, and that's very important, you're by far not cost efficient at the moment. And in the mobility sector, we have the cost efficiency. Yeah, and that's why we started the eFarm project. We have production sites within wind parks across northern Frisia, with a whole of 1.125 megawatt. From a perspective today, that seems a little small, but from a perspective in 2018, when we were fixing these numbers, it seemed like a very, very big number. So you always have to see at what point in time you start the plan. But of course, we always were planning on a modular level, so we don't have to stop there in this project, but we can build up the capacity as soon as the demand is there. So it's not finished with this 1 megawatt of electrolyzer capacity. So we have wind parks. We have 5 electrolyzers producing the hydrogen, which is 100% green. So we make sure that the electrolyzer only produces electricity in that moment when the windmills are producing. But yeah, one big point which annoys me from a system design level is that what Gerd already mentioned. We have the big problem that only makes sense today off-grid. So we have a direct line between the wind park and the electrolyzer. Efficient would be something else. Efficient would be the electrolyzer within the grid, fed from all the wind parks or photovoltaic power plants in that region. It makes no sense to leave the grid out of the equation here. but economically it makes sense to leave it out, and that's what everybody does. But we really need to take some steps there to get the regulation on a sensible level there. So we produce the hydrogen within the wind parks, or very close to the wind parks, and then we have a system of storage, mobile storage units, which take the hydrogen to two refueling stations, where we offer it to the public. Those are public refueling stations. And they offer they can refuel normal passenger cars as well as buses. And to get the whole system rolling, we bought 2 hydrogen buses and leased them to the regional supplier for the public transportation infrastructure. And thankfully, on the political side, they said 3 years ago, go ahead, do this. We take the extra costs for the hydrogen buses. So that's the way in which we could introduce those hydrogen buses within the local area there. And then, of course, within our network and GP Joule itself, we started buying hydrogen cars. We have the aim of 35 cars within the next year, so we get a bit of volume on the refueling station. Here I showed you some pictures of the sites. From this perspective, you see downwards the first production site that was set up in the last summer in Boosbühl, where you can see on the right electrolyzer, the 2 electrolyzers actually, and the compression is here, and on the left the 2 trailers you see that's a mobile storage solution. You see that here in a close-up on a different site. That's our site in Sizilienkrug, where our main office building is. We have an electrolyzer there as well. But those are technically the same mobile storage units. Each can store 330 kilograms of hydrogen, and when they're full, they're taken to the gas stations. One of them you see here in Nibel, the other one is in Husum. And it makes sense to use those mobile storage units because you don't have to pump the hydrogen around from one storage container to the other, but the electrolyzer feeds directly into the storage unit with 300 bars. And here at the refueling station in Nibel and Husum, the refueling station takes the hydrogen directly out of the mobile storage unit. We want to integrate the hydrogen production within a sector coupling infrastructure. Of course, our plans are much bigger than the eFarm project. Within Germany, we have different projects where we work on hydrogen projects. But one thing which we already what we already did within the eFarm project was to use the heat of the electrolyzers, and we don't take the gas and make heat out of it, but we use the heat by the electrolyzers, which is produced by the electrolyzers, and put that in a local district heating project. So that district heating project has already a heat source, but the electrolyzer adds up to it and saves the heat source, the original heat source, and it adds up to the energy efficiency of the local grid and also of the electrolyzer. We measured it. We already saved 435 tons of CO2 in this year. That was only the beginning. So we're looking forward within the next years to get that number a lot higher. But actually, if you spend a minute and dwell on it, it's quite fascinating, I think. Where a year ago we had to get the diesel somewhere from far across the world, get it maybe to the refinery in Heide, refine it, and then take the diesel to the region. We now produce that fuel there 100% ourselves. The windmills run, they make the local energy. We make the hydrogen out of it and transport it to the gas station. I think that's quite fascinating when you think what can be done and what can be earned in those regions when you start projects like that. Yeah, here just a few pictures from our PR coverage of the whole thing, where we try to link the project to the local community. So this woman, she's an e-farmer because she takes the hydrogen bus to work every morning, as well as the owner of the windmills, which are actually not owned by him personally, but by a group of people. It's a Bürger wind park, so to say. So many people in that area own the wind park together and are part of the e-farm project, as well as people who just drive a hydrogen car and use local energy. Yeah, here a few further projects, hydrogen projects across Germany where we work on at the moment. But actually, I'm sure there are a few more to come within the next month. That's it. I'm happy to answer questions, and thank you very much.